Sorry, my voice isn't being too annoying, is it? Gonna say that.
That can be the start of the show. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Daily Deco. Shaun is back. He's here.
How's it going?
With his annoying voice. So sorry if you're listening on headphones.
You loved it. They love it on headphones. Everyone tells me.
So
what
were you doing yesterday? I just said you were off like gallivanting or something.
I was, yeah. No, wasn't doing anything. No, I was doing a stage setup for those guys over in White Lines. So obviously it is the winter season that is approaching. So skiing and snowboarding, it's quite popular, I've heard. So they're doing their breakdown and their product reviews on boards and bindings and all that sort of thing. So I was just setting up, helping set up, making things look pretty, moving stuff, building stuff, doing lighting, doing filming, the usual filming thing, really. So it was quite nice though, because again, I helped build it, and I'm like, there you go, bye. I don't have to help.
See you later.
I'm not actually going to film this stuff. And I'm not going to put it away. So see you later, dudes. No, it was good though. It was good. It was nice to meet more people that I've not seen before. We spoke about, obviously YouTube and the White Lines YouTube, which again, our older followers, or our most subscribed followers, not subscribed followers, our seasoned followers, should I say, know that obviously, even though I'm very lack of scuba diving, but obviously channel wise and YouTube wise, that's kind of my ting. That's my thing. So yeah, I bored them to death with that. That was fun. That was about it, really. But yeah, no, it was good. It was quite nice going around London on a lockdown. Obviously, I was allowed to go because it was work. It wasn't for leisure or anything. No one was around. The train was basically empty. The underground was empty. And like you walk down the street and like, I've not actually you normally get the shoulder barge, don't you?
Yeah.
You're like, just bang.
Welcome to London.
Yeah, exactly that. But none of that. It was lovely.
Yeah.
That's a plus for the pandemic. Yeah. I get to walk around London.
Silver lining.
Shoulder barged.
Silver lining.
Anyway.
Yeah. So no real news from the Simply Scuba side of things from yesterday. Not a great deal has changed. So jumping straight into actual news stories.
No.
What's happened?
We're sponsored. Teespring.
Oh yeah, we are sponsored by Teesprings. Same as yesterday and the day before, but we'll mention that a little bit later.
Indeedy doody.
So the first news story that caught my eye was from Tuscany, and this is an Italian fisherman who's been fishing there for decades, and he started to see way back in like the 1980s that trawlermen and their kind of just trawling antics were just decimating sort of local fish species, and in Italy and sort of where he is in particular, they have sort of laws and legislations that you're not allowed to use trawling practices within 3 miles of shore. But he says, obviously, sort of a lot of them, they just do a little sort of sneaky sort of night trawl because he's seeing the kind of the damage, and he says he said the analogy is like it's like a hunter is burning down the entire forest just to catch one rabbit, because when they trawl they just they drag the entire seabed, and it's not just catching the fish and the sort of marine life that the fishermen are trying to get, it's also destroying all like the seagrasses and the actual habitat of the fish. So he says it's just terrible. So he's actually become quite a popular figure where he is, and he has basically he came up with an idea. Instead of just putting like giant concrete blocks down into certain areas that the trawler would like sort of catch its nets on, and it's very, very expensive, so they won't do it in that area anymore. So he thought, well, instead of just a concrete block, let's put something interesting down there. So he went to a local like marble cutting firm, whatever they're called, and just said,
loads of those over in Italy.
Oh yeah,
it's like the Aldi It's going to go to the marble cutting place.
There's one on every corner. And he said, could you donate a couple blocks of marble? And because basically I want to turn them into an underwater piece of art that would also sort of protect the sea life. And instead of giving them like 1 or 2 blocks, they gave them like 100. And these are like tons and tons. They're huge things. And he went to a local artist, I believe, who's sort of carved all sorts of interesting sculptures into them. And then he sunk them down into this sort of big circle. I think they call it the Guardians or something. And yeah, it's of course all the marine life has just flocked back to it. It's growing all the seagrass and everything. So it's now this kind of protected area because the trawlers they can't go through it because they're just going to destroy their nets. So yeah, this is how he's protecting his local marine ecosystem, and it's something interesting to sort of go down and sort of scuba dive as well. So yeah, I thought that was a very, very interesting story.
It's cool, man. It's nice to stop the trawling. It's nice that it's bringing back marine life. It's something a bit funky underwater, which is pretty cool. But also as well, you know, potentially on where they're located, it's going to be an attraction for scuba divers. So
yes.
It really is a win-win-win-win-win, really. It's cool.
Yeah. I mean, I've been diving off Italy and lovely waters. I think when I went, it wasn't the warmest, but yeah, nice and clear. Lots of interesting fish species. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a hot spot to attract scuba divers.
That's cool, man.
In other news, moving into science and technology. Scientists have been looking at catfish and trying to basically see how they can use catfish to improve their robots. Now, if you imagine a underwater ROV or like a submarine or something, they usually have their arms out the front and they just have like clampy claws for hands. And to actually like manipulate items and do things underwater, it's really fiddly. So they're trying to think of a different way, and as ever, scientists, they often look to nature to see if nature's already come up with a viable sort of way of doing it. And they're actually taking a long, hard look at catfish. So they x-rayed sort of catfish skulls and kind of how the musculature works. And basically, because catfish don't have tongues, but they can still like move and rotate things in their mouths. And the way they do this, instead of like a traditional like human skull or dog skull or anything that just has like one mandible jaw that moves up and down and kind of side to side, catfish actually have like 12. So they have all these independent kind of jaws that kind of all move around so that they can manipulate things inside of them. And scientists are basically trying to work out how they can use this to turn robot hands into like these very clever manipulative kind of designs so that way you don't need 2 separate claws to actually rotate something. You just have this one catfish hand face to kind of move
just
stuff.
Got this weird hybrid.
It's fascinating, and it's. I'm sure Skynet are going to use this design to their advantage in some way.
We've called it. Was it DiveNet?
Legion. Oh yeah, DiveNet.
No, it wasn't DiveNet. It's GhostNet, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, GhostNet.
One of those things we called the future.
The underwater robot revolution.
Yeah, man. Oh, that's freaky. That's cool though. Who fought catfish?
I don't know. I presume. I don't know. I mean, you hear scientists doing all sorts of weird and wonderful research, so eventually something's going to pay off.
Yeah.
That's good. This one's quite interesting. So today's episode of Daily Deco is sponsored by our very own Teespring store. So Teesprings is a online merchandise store. So Shaun, myself, and other designers at Simply Scuba, we come up with sort of interesting sort of scuba diving designs to put on t-shirts, hoodies, socks, all sorts of bits and bobs. So if you're looking for scuba diving merchandise, then head over to teesprings.com. There's going to be links down in the in the description and comments below, so you can go straight there. But yeah, you can go to Teespring, search for Simply Scuba, search for like scuba diving designs, And then when you find something you like, you can basically pick and choose the t-shirt, the color, the size, sort of what style of t-shirt, what style of hoodie or whatever. And then as soon as you place your order, they make it for you then and there, and then ship it directly to you from their manufacturing place of work. So yeah, that way basically we don't have to hold stock. It's much more eco-friendly. There's less sort of clothing waste, because that's a very big deal in kind of single-use fashion industry right now. There's a lot of waste, so we're trying to avoid that by going to places like Teesprings. And right now we're offering 15% off of your order if you use the discount code Daily Deco, so all one word, Daily Deco, at the checkout phase, and you can get 15% off of your order. So it's good timing just for sort of Christmas time, Christmas gifts for the scuba diver in your life. Yeah, check out our Teespring store.
Mate, it's like we think of these things when it comes to these promos and holidays. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, what's Christmas? I've never heard of Christmas.
Christmas?
Yeah.
It's that code though. It's doing really well. It's our second most popular code that we've done, other than the when we first launched Teesprings and we did that 10% off. That was our most popular, which it would be because everyone wants to buy the dive tee, and that hadn't been on the website for 2 or 3 years. So as soon as that went up on Teesprings, everyone bought that tee.
Yeah, that's quite a classic one. I'm wearing cave shark at the moment. So if you quite like a cave shark with a little scuba diver kind of swimming into his mouth, then yeah, this should be on the on the Teespring store. Obviously different colours. If you don't like a black t-shirt, then yeah, you can go for all sorts of different colours.
Sweet. I'm wearing Wild Stallions t-shirt. This is not on our Teespring store, but if you're a Bill and Ted fan, you know, mate. It's most excellent, most triumphant. Anyway, next story, Mark. Well, this one's quite a doozy. This one's quite funny.
This one is quite funny. So this is basically a man was he was being arrested by the FBI. They were after him for like a $35 million Ponzi scheme. So
Sounds
they went
like one
to
of your
arrest.
mates, Mark.
No, this was in the States. So yeah, they went to go and arrest him, and the way that he evaded capture is he like grabbed a Sea-Doo or a Yamaha sea scooter and just like jumped in a lake and like sort of buzzed away from. So the story unfortunately doesn't really go into sort of great deal, other than he disappeared from sight for about 30 minutes. So we can only imagine that he had some kind of scuba, because you can't really hold your breath for 30 minutes whilst trying to get away from the FBI. And also, this was just like the other day, so it was frigid cold. So he was either very, very prepared or very determined to get away from the FBI. But unfortunately, it was a lake, so there was no way out for him. And the FBI just basically, they saw him get in the water, and they basically just followed his bubbles. And then half an hour later, when he came up for air, they basically said, "Come on, mate." And he's like, "Yeah, okay." And they arrested him. So he managed to evade capture for about 30 minutes. So he did pretty well. So yeah, they say that when agents went to arrest Piercy, he hopped in a pickup and led them on a chase that ended at the shoreline of the lake north of Redding, and this is in California, I believe. And then, quote from one of the agents then, "Piercy abandoned his truck near the edge of Lake Shasta, pulled something out of it, and swam into Lake Shasta. Federal prosecutors wrote in court documents calling Piercy a flight risk." Go figure. And he spent some time out of sight underwater where law enforcement could only see his bubbles. So the sea scooter that he was using, it was a Yamaha, like a 350, which has a maximum speed limit of 4 miles per hour. So it's not particularly quick, but swimming, that is fairly quick. So this guy, he was they liked him for like $35 million of just scams and sort of witness tampering as well, money laundering, money fraud, wire fraud, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, he's going into his sort of court appearance today, I believe. So yeah, he's facing 20 years in prison. And hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines. So
maybe they might knock a couple of years off just for the sheer balls of, like, literally. I reckon he probably saw like an old like 70s cop show and was just like, do you know what? That's a good idea.
Yeah.
That sounds like.
He must have had it all like set up in his truck ready. And it's like, well, they'll never think of this. They can chase me down by car, but they can't do it in the water. What are they going to do? Just get a boat? No, it's a lake. They're just going to wait by the edge.
I love it. I just get an image of these cops just waiting by the side, drinking a cup of tea or something, eating a donut as they do over in America, because every cop does that. I'm not stereotyping whatsoever. Just waiting for a Piercy just to be like, come up and go, okay.
Or just like a reed snorkel.
like in a cartoon.
That's it. Nah, he would have done better with a closed circuit rebreather, because then they wouldn't have been able to see his bubbles. He could just kind of buzz secretly underneath the water and then just kind of slink out of the water and just.
And he could have afforded it as well with the 35 million Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
He could have afforded it.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Come on.
Anyway, the final story comes from Croatia, and this is becoming quite a popular thing that we're seeing nowadays. Is that it's actual wine. What do you call winemakers? Is it just a winemaker? People who make wine.
Wine masters. There's probably like a French.
I'm sure there is. Yeah. So they're actually storing a lot of their wine underwater because the temperature doesn't change very much, and this is a new sort of wine cellar in Croatia, and they're storing these like amphora of wine underwater. So of course you can only access them on Scuba, and they say that because it's at a sort of constant temperature, because the water temperature doesn't change that much, that the wine it comes out, it has a very unique flavour and kind of texture to it, now of course they're starting to sort of harvest and then sell this wine, and I can't quite tell if you get the actual like encrusted amphora as well, or whether they just decant it into a bottle. It's quite hard to tell, but a bottle of this wine will set you back about $400. So it's not a cheap bottle of plonk, but if you're a wine enthusiast, then this is something a little bit different. And we're seeing this all over.
Yeah, for the price, I would hope that I would get the crusty. You'd want it all.
Yeah. Well, it's like I was watching The Crown last night, and it was all about the episode was the guy who broke into Buckingham Palace and sort of saw the Queen, and
he's one of your mates, isn't he?
He apparently he was never charged with sort of trespass or anything, because he was quite civil. He was quite sort of nice, as it were. But the only thing that he was ever charged with was theft, which was of a bottle of wine. Basically, the first time that he snuck into Buckingham Palace, he went into a like a gift room, and he saw all these like bottles of wine. He's like, oh yeah, this must be fancy. Turns out the bottle was worth about £6, so it wasn't really grand theft, but these bottles, $400 for a bottle of wine, and I mean it's got a bit of story, hasn't it? It's cool. It's stored at about sort of 20 meters down, and it's got all sorts of sort of the corks. They're coated in a couple of layers of wax to make sure that water doesn't sort of get in, because that would definitely change the flavour of the wine. But we're seeing this more and more. Yeah. I saw that the rum brand Kraken, they did a limited edition sort of underwater sort of bottle of rum, and they had a free diver at Endak, I think, in the UK. They had this like sort of treasure chest, and they filmed her like free diving down to one of the shipwrecks down there at Endak, and she sort of lifted up this sort of bottle of rum, and that was the whole kind of story. So yeah, more and more sort of drinks companies are sort of storing things underwater because that sort of temperature change is kind of perfect for them.
Yeah. How funny would it be if obviously this becomes more and more popular and people there's a couple of opportunists, maybe some of your mates, Mark.
Come on, they're all in prison.
Anyway, someone sees that people are putting like wine down there. That cool. Let's go down there and break into it. And then they bring it up to the surface, and it's like Blossom Hill. You're like, no! Like the Essex version of this is going to be Chardonnay. It's like the complete flip opposite of what it should be.
Yeah, they just keep it in like their local sort of their local creek. Just, this makes wine more expensive, doesn't it?
Yeah, mate. Oh, Chardonnay. It's got silt all over it. It's lovely.
That's it. That makes it more expensive. Anyway, that's it for the news. As ever, if you have any interesting news stories you want us to cover, let us know down in the comments below. If you have any questions, I'm going to be answering them tomorrow in tomorrow's Friday Q&A. So if you have any questions, comments, queries, anything that you sort of unsure on, let us know down in the comments below, and we'll add them to the list if they're interesting enough. As ever, thank you for watching. Don't forget to sort of stay happy and stay healthy in this current climate. Thank you for watching, and of course, safe diving.
Stay classy, scuba divers.